The next one here is from Brett Young by email. He says, the Mandarin Companion podcast recently talked about something I've been struggling with. When words are made of multiple characters, the meaning is not always apparent. I have watched your videos on how to remember words, but without the background on why the combination of characters has a certain meaning, it is very difficult for me to remember. Could you provide some of the meaning behind words like you did with 马上, horse on? Or is there a website or a book that has this information? Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to include a link to the various ways of memorizing Chinese words. It's a clip that Phil did. We talk about several techniques that you can use to create connections to new compound words. So yes, the meaning of certain compound words is not always apparent. Absolutely right, because of these reasons. And often the word is kind of old. I mean, a lot of Chinese words are old, of course, but one of the meanings of the characters doesn't mean what it used to mean anymore. And so the connection is kind of lost. This is fairly common. And the answer is similar to how we learn characters, to use your imagination a little bit. But let's first go through some examples. So you gave the example of 马上. 马上 means immediately or right away. And it's a very old word, 马上. I'm on the horse. It's like, I'm on the horse. Yeah, it's like saying, yep, I'm just leaving the house. I'm just getting in the car right now. I'm on my way. 马上, I'm on the horse, I'm going to be there. So that makes a lot of sense. And even if you didn't know that cultural tidbit, you could sort of make a mnemonic quite easily. It's like, yes, I'm already on the horse. I'm literally on the way to you. Or get the idea of getting on the horse and rushing to someone. It's kind of visual, right? So that's kind of great. But what about if it's not obvious? So I've just chosen some examples beforehand just to go through them, sort of ranging in difficulty. So one is, of course, we've done 马上. The next one is 说明. This is actually what Phil talks about as an example in the video we talked about. So 说 means to speak and 明 means bright or clear. So the word itself means to explain. 说明, and it's actually I forget what kind of word it is now. There are 7 different types of compound word. This is basically one that's like action or verb and then result. What's the result of that verb? And that tells you the meaning of the entire word. So when I speak until something is clear, I shored until it was minged, then it's to explain. And that makes, you could make like in your flashcard, you could have a picture of this is very important. Pictures are vital. You could have a picture of someone explaining something. When we used to teach this live, we used to get all sorts of cool responses. We used to walk people through with their computers and teach them how to do this and how to, more importantly, make the connection to images. Everything comes back to an image. That's very key. So even if your connection is very tenuous and personal to you, you still got to have an image to represent it because it's going to increase your retention of that word many times over. So we had one guy, I remember this very clearly, he had what's his name, Hagrid from Harry Potter explaining that scene where he's like, you're a wizard, Harry, explaining that he's a thing. Right? It doesn't need any sort of written explanation there at all. But you could write a note showing how you make the connection between the two characters. 原因 is another one. 原因means reason. This means reason. 原 means original, and 因 means cause. So the original cause is the reason. So that sort of explains itself in a way. But you could always, and you could back that up with a picture. You wouldn't really need to write much there. I mean, it's one of those. It's very very clear if you know the meaning, and you learn the right meaning of the character. That makes sense with 原因. And again, you could write if you're more of that sort of person. You like to write things out in little notes. Put the note in your flashcard. In our flashcards, we give you that little quang, the little, I get that a lot. You remember the Chinese word, but you don't remember the English word. Little box, little field that you can fill in that information for yourself if you want. You can say, oh, the original meaning, the original reason is the cause. And then maybe you could have like, I don't know, a picture that shows the cause of something. Maybe like a volcano underwater creates a tidal wave. You can have that picture of that if that's the connection you make. That's the one I just made right then. So that's what I would do. And similar to this, by the way, just as an aside, I like to go on tangents, but with this sort of thing, it's kind of, it follows a similar principle to how we teach you mnemonics, how we teach you how to learn characters, because you should go with your first instinct. What do you connect to the word emotionally for your memories? immediately, go with that and choose a picture for it, or 2 or 3 or 4. Bunch of pictures is fine too. 统计 is another one. So this is another example. I was trying to think of a more difficult one, right? It's not immediately obvious. So this means 统计 means a couple of things. It means to count, means statistics. So that's another key thing. So when you get more challenging ones like this, one of the first things I would recommend, let me just get this here, is that you go through Pleco or Plico. I still don't know how to say it after all these years. You go through Pleco and you type in your character, your word, type in the whole word first. And often, just like with 统计, you'll get several meanings for the same word. So yeah, so I've got a verb meaning statistics, and it also means to add up, to count. 统计出席人数, okay. 出席人数, okay. So 统计, so I like that idea of counting up, and that actually, that meaning, even if it's not the meaning that we present to you, you can, if that meaning that we present to you is you can't make a connection to it, check Pleco and see another connection. Both of those work quite well, like statistics, for example. That works fine with the characters, that makes sense. But try out both. So let's go with add up or count first. To 统计 something, like to 计, to 算, right, to count something. So 统 as a character means together, unified, interconnected, gather as one, like 统一, like it means to unite as a people or whatever. You don't need to know that, you just click on the character in Pleco and it tells you all the different definitions. And then immediately click on 计. Now I know 计 to mean to count, but it also means plan, an idea, a strategy, a plan. And it also means, as a verb, it means to count. So you've got all these different ideas. So think of these as 2 like columns of ideas, and you just need to draw a line and connect 2 that makes sense. It doesn't have to actually be the real way that characters are supposed to make up the word. Do you see what I mean? So like maybe the original maker of this word said, 统计 is statistics, because 统 means all and 计 means to count. So you're counting 100%, you're counting out of 100%, all count. That's what statistics are, they're percentages, right? So, that makes sense. But it doesn't matter. If you don't make that connection, make another one, right? So for example, 统 also means interconnected, interrelated, or it just means all, or just means together. So you could even, this is going to get silly now, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but you could say ideas, ruse, or a strategy. So you can think like, you could imagine a connection between, like, I don't know, I'm just randomly thinking here, Guy Fawkes, right? That was like, for me as a British person, Guy Fawkes is like the famous conspirator that wanted to blow up Buckingham Palace. That's what November the 5th is all about. So I get it's all planning. So I can imagine all of them are planning, and they're adding up sticks of dynamite underneath. And I've got a picture. I make that connection. That's like, it's nothing to do with the original meaning of the 2 characters, and they're not connected. But I'm creating like a crazy mnemonic story, similar to the way I would with individual characters, but except there's no real plan for this one. There's no system. I'm just doing it on the fly. And then I'll go and find a picture of Guy Fawkes, or a painting, a representation of Guy Fawkes and his crew, and put that in my flashcard, boom, next. And do you know what? Again, that really was off the top of my head. That might sound absolutely mental to someone listening, but I would try that out. If I couldn't think of a more logical, easy route, I would go for something a bit more abstract like that. And then I would come back to it later, because I'm going to review that card soon, right? So in a week or something, I'll review it and I get a better idea. I hit edit and I change the picture and I change the note I put in and just change it to something else. Whatever works, whatever doesn't, change it, right? So I hope that's not too convoluted there. So we've got one more is that I thought was quite difficult, is 经济, which means economy, 经济. So let's actually, again, I'm going to go in Pleco, and you might find that 经, so 经 means a bunch of things. So if you type in 经, this character, J-I-N-G, it just means, how many definitions do I have in Pleco here? I've got 6 definitions just as a noun. And then I've got 2 more as a verb, another as an adjective. It's got a ton. So I've got lots. That's a good thing, by the way, because you've got a lot to choose from. It's good. It's best to choose a more common meaning, of course, but it's fine, right? So you've got, and it's best to choose the meaning that you use to learn the character. That's ideal. But, you can't have everything. So jing is, like the meaning I say is most common, the most useful is to pass someone. But like as in, it can also be experience, like 经历 or 经验, right? To have experience, to pass through life and have experience. And that's a good way of learning that word, by the way. 经验, 经历. The power of passing. Yeah. Anyway, I'm digressing again. So you find jing and then you find ji. Ji actually means a few things like aid, like as in financial aid, relief as well. I mean, you could take that to be in both ways, right? So what we've got passing and then relief. So if you have a good economy passes you by. That is relieving for everyone. If you have a boom in the economy, that passes. But also you could see it another way. You could say everything in economy is currently always moving. It's always passing. It's always, it's moving past you all the time. And this is just my brain just firing and thinking. And as soon as you get something, you think, that could be a picture. Put the keyword phrase into Google or whatever you use. And then put that picture in your flashcards, move on. Don't overthink it. Make that connection between the characters. It doesn't have to, again, like the whole sort of moral of this story is that, yes, sometimes the character relationship is not immediately obvious, but you can make up one based on your whatever knowledge of the individual characters you have. Now, if you don't know the individual characters, you need to go back a step and you need to learn those characters first. Otherwise, you're not really going to fully learn the word, in my opinion. And I'll put this phone down, but you get the idea. So I hope that helps. We used to go through helping people out with exactly stuff like this all the time. It was part of our live class, like I said. And there was always these sort of questions and issues that came up. And the basic gist is not to worry too much. Like, even if you don't come up with any connection whatsoever, you've just got two characters together. You know the characters, but you don't know how they make up this word. Do you know what? Just put it in your flashcard anyway. Search. This was like the last ditch effort before moving on to the next thing, right? Because you can't focus like 10, 20 minutes on one little word. It's not worth the effort right now. So if you really can't think of a connection in like 1 or 2 minutes, we used to time people. If you can't do it in 1 or 2 minutes max, you're really sort of thinking of a connection in 1 minute. Move on. Type that word in Chinese or English, whichever meaning you like, into Google. Get a picture that's somewhat related to the translated meaning of it in English. Stick that picture in the card. Move on. You'll next time you see that card, you might get you will likely actually get a bit of inspiration and improve it then. Okay, so. Hey guys, if you like this video and you'd like us to help you reach literacy and fluency in Mandarin Chinese as fast as possible without all the headache of traditional learning methods, just head to mandarinblueprint.com to learn more.